1984, I was hospitalized for approaching perfection. Slowly screwing my way across Europe, they had to make a correction. Broken and smoking where the infrared deer plunge in the digital snake. I tell you, they make it so you can't shake hands when they make your hand shake. I know you like to line dance, everything's so democratic and cool, but baby, there's no guidance when random rules.
Hello and welcome to Swell Season Surf Radio. I'm your co-host Tyler Brewer.
I'm your co-host Ben Pomeroy.
Ben, how's your pie, guy?
My pie is fine. Good to see you.
Good to see you too. It's been quite a little bit, hasn't it?
It's been a few weeks. Yeah.
No, been keeping it busy.
I have not much in the water. I was out a couple of Mondays ago and got some fun like slop on shore. That was a good time. But yeah, I've been just living this hot June New York life.
And wedding planning.
This has been part of the work roster. Yes, getting married in September. Pray for waves. I have that in the schedule on the actual invitation. Waves. Surf around.
Island.
Yeah, in the morning. There's no waves there.
But you've been going out there, so you would have thought you would have gotten waves.
Yeah. No dice.
Yeah. No. Have you been? So you haven't been getting in the water much.
A little, not that much, but we really haven't had that consistent amount of surf. I did watch plenty of waves on
Friday.
On Friday, oh, you too?
You
were
out
of
Dallas,
town.
so
Oh,
I was
how
watching
that?
it. It was painful.
I hadn't heard, I know people did score, but the two friends that had wanted to go surfing with me timed it wrong, and so I guess in that weird, perverse way, when you're not surfing. Mm-hmm. And then, maybe the crew you go with doesn't get it good. You're like, maybe I missed something.
Yeah. Last surf I had was a little over a week ago in Montauk.
Oh, nice, dude.
I ran into our former guest, Chris Blotia.
Oh, cool.
As well, so that was cool. And I borrowed a board from my old friend Roger Fight. A high-performance, nature-shaped kind of longboard with carbon rails and no stringer, and it was waist high, and
that sounds good, dude.
Well, it was choppy, and basically you'd get to your feet, and the wave would kind of disappear almost or push out.
No.
But ditch, you can get that little bump at the peak,
exactly,
and it kind of jacks with the bit of current, and I got a couple, and I was high performance longboarding.
Oh,
which
cool.
was super funny. Normally I'm used to riding a traditional, when I ride a log, it's more traditional.
I'm into low performance shortboarding. That's how I surf. Were you wearing a leash, may I ask?
I had to, because it was a borrowed board at Ditch.
Totally. No, for all good reason. I've just been thinking since that excellent interview, which people should listen to, with Chris. Blotia, why we should be surfing more if we can, given the crowds, without a leash.
I totally agree. I surf regularly smaller waves without a leash.
Yeah, me too. And I actually did take a board out without a leash at Ditch on a crowded day, and I got 2 waves, and I was so freaked out about it, hitting someone or something going on that I went in.
I had one experience at Ditch where I just got a brand new board from Petro Faction.
Yeah, good boards.
And I didn't, and it was chest to head high, maybe a little bit bigger. And it was nice. It was really good. It was breaking really far out, and I didn't have a leash with me. So I just said, fuck it, I'm going to go out without a leash. Caught a few good ones, and then I got a little too ambitious. And I lost the board, and it went into the rocks.
Oh, shit.
And I got a little ding. And,
oh, no.
And it was a long swim.
Never again.
Well, I try to surf beach breaks mostly.
Yeah.
Beach breaks with no leash, if you can.
Well, yeah, we never talk about surfing out there, so I guess it's summertime.
It's summertime, exactly. So, Ben, we have a really fun little show here.
I know. I'm really psyched for this one.
So this one is
time travel.
So yeah, we're time traveling, folks. This interview I performed back in 2011 at Anthology Film Archives, So this is all setting up,
Lower East
actually.
Side.
So this is
Very
all
solid.
setting up for an interview we have coming up with Mr. Chris Gentile on his new latest movie. But basically, the interview was done at Anthology Film Archives, which was run by Jonas Mekas, famous director, who ended up doing the voiceover for Chris's latest film. And the narration was written by our guest, Jamie Brisick.
Yeah.
And so this is a stroll down memory lane for Jamie. It's like kind of a recap of his career in surfing and surf life. And the format, what we did was Jamie, so like for 3 days before this interview, I got to like hang out like every night with Jamie and
cool.
ask like every fucking question I've ever wanted to know about life on tour, pro surfers. Like I totally geeked out, but he gave me also like a bunch of scrapbook stuff.
Oh, cool.
And I was able to scan all of that and make digital copies for him, and then use that and make like basically like a little presentation. And basically
You brought your evidence to court.
I brought my PowerPoint.
I
brought my PowerPoint. And basically we just scrolled through each photo and discussed the topic around the photo. And so this was like a really fun, really interesting conversation. Jamie is like such a great storyteller, and he's so cool.
Yeah, well, it's funny because you mentioned Chris's film that we'll interview
Surfing
for next.
is Self-Discovery. As the name, by the way. Sorry, we should tell everyone that. Surfing is Self-Discovery, which is the
For
name.
social
self-discovery.
Social self-discovery.
Social self, right?
Yeah.
Oh man, I'm gonna have to look this up.
We're gonna have to get this. It's a long title. It's sort of cool. It sounds like something you may have read in philosophy class at college. The film is beautiful, and it was funny while I was, and I'd forgot we were going to do the Jamie Brisick tape, and I wrote you in anticipation of next week's interview. I was like, did Jamie Brisick write the narration on that? Because it's awesome. So this is great kismet.
It's basically self-discovery for social survival.
That's
the name.
it. That's what it is.
This is the new film from Chris Gentile and Pilgrim and Mexican Blanket and
Mexican Summer.
Jeez, why do I keep saying Mexican Blanket?
I don't know. It's cool though.
It does sound cool.
Mexican Summer is a great label, and the
Yes.
music on this film is just incredible.
It's phenomenal.
It's part of the core of the story, but we won't spoil next week's show. But Jamie Brisick is his writing is in the film, and he's in the film.
And he's in the film, and he plays one of the elder statesmen, basically. So we thought it'd be appropriate to rehash a really fun interview with Jamie that we did years ago, now about 8 years ago. And the stories still hold up and totally great. And so we'll start with the first photo, which is a cover photo that Jamie got at Fernando de Noronha. And it kind of deals with the disillusion of pro surfing in some ways, like how a photo can make a shitty trip look amazing. And so here, Jamie's
time travel. I'm going to sit in.
You're sitting in Anthology right here. You're looking up at the screen.
2011. I'm sitting.
Brisick,
ready for it.
backhand tube. He's grabbing the rail. Yellow surfboard, blonde hair, handsome devil. Kind of reminds me of Fred from Scooby-Doo a little bit.
All right.
And he's on the cover, and he talks about this whole trip and his slight disillusionment with everything pro surfing and surf trips. And here we go. You got a cover of Surfer magazine. This was in 1988. You know, this trip you went to Fernando de Noronha in Brazil.
Yep.
And it's an island off there. It's beautiful. It's very idyllic. And you got this cover shot, which is, you should think this would be like a peak of your career. Mm-hmm. And what happened here? I mean, there was something that kind of clicked.
Well, yeah, no, it was a really, really fun, great trip. It was my first time going to Brazil. But it made me realize, you know, the funny thing, I think, coming to surfing at a young age and having it be so larger than life, and having, you know, in a lot of ways, sort of all my myths were built around the surf culture, and the surfers were these giant characters. But this trip, we went to a place called Fernando de Noronha, and we were there for a week. And it was onshore and really small and overcast every single day. And it was a photo trip. So the whole thing was, it was about trying to generate editorial content for the surf magazines. And it was bad every day. It was looking like this trip was just sort of a waste. And on the final day, about an hour before I had to race off to get my flight back, the sun came out. It didn't come out in that photo, but in that photo there's a little bit of sun. And we had this session. And the waves look fantastic, but the thing is they're all closeouts. So it's this sort of fantasy, and I think so much of surfing is built on this idea of the search for the perfect wave, or however you want to put it. But the idea of traveling and going to Jeffreys Bay, to going to the North Shore, and you go out and you find, and the sort of thing that you're chasing is the great wave. So it was interesting to be on a trip and get all this exposure, and this 45-minute session where a lot of photos were taken was in Brazilian magazines, American magazines, Japanese magazines, I think a South African magazine, and it was kind of like a hoax. It was like the bubble burst in a weird way for me, because I realized that all these pictures I've been looking at all my life are really tightly framed, and they're a little bit of I'm being deceived slightly. It's not always as good as it looks. Yeah.
And then you used to get paid for these photos. I mean, how much would you get for a cover surfer back then?
Well, so I think I was on $300 a month. Maybe at this point I might have been on $700 per month for Quicksilver. And the way you could make money was through photo incentives. So the Quicksilver sticker on the nose of my board for the cover, I think would have earned me $500 or $1,000. The Zuma J sticker, I had a small salary from them. The Pro Light sticker, the Rusty sticker, the Oakley sticker, all together, the trip I probably earned $3,000 or $4,000. But that was how, it was really this weird kind of whoring thing where the more stickers you pasted on your board, the more money you could make. So there was a period where, guys would have like 6 logos. There would be Aloe Up, which was a sunscreen, Oakley, which is sunglasses, a board bag company, a local shop, a clothing brand, and a wetsuit. And very different to now where, generally the guys get sort of one major sponsor, maybe a couple smaller ones, but it's generally about the one, and they get a fat income on that.
And you try to milk this too. I mean, like you just said, it went in how many magazines, and you just try to make that last. That was something like that.
Yes.
And after that trip, did you want to continue doing photo trips, or was it more of something that made you want to do more competitive because it felt like more legitimate?
The content, I mean, yeah, if you sign up for the competitive thing, it's going to consume you. That it's just the nature of the beast. It's so much about trying to break into the top 30. But it was fun. I mean, the trips were, you would have, at the time that I was on the tour, there was anywhere between 20 and 30 events on the schedule per year. So it was really, you were on the road. You were going constantly. But then there would be these windows of, 2 weeks off, and you'd be in South Africa waiting to go on to Brazil, and there was Reunion Island, so you could go over there with a photographer, and that was, at the time, sort of uncharted, and you would get some photos and we called them photo trips, but they were also kind of adventurous and fun. But it was a way to sort of pick up some money and go somewhere new.
So this next one, with Jamie. So that was really interesting. And
they call that is it a set of islands? Is it the Hawaii of Brazil?
The Hawaii of Brazil,
the photos you see of it, it's just like the most beautiful place on earth.
It's stunning, and it's got this beach break that is, from what I've heard and read, like has its day, but also could be one of the world's best closeouts. Most beautiful closeouts. This next photo is like a photo of Jamie's notebook, note-taking book or journal. And you had like these different little notes on there. And there was one where it talks about Todd Chesser owing Jamie like $45 or $145. Like it's really interesting, but this whole section is about the realities of being a pro surfer, especially back in the 80s and when you were low funded and you didn't have a lot of support.